Staff and members of the public, welcome to this ordinary meeting of Blue Mountain City Council held on the 28th of July 2026 in our council chambers in Katoomba. Our members of the public are advised that registration to speak is now closed and that this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the council's website for 12 months after the upload date. This meeting is also being live streamed, and as all statements made at this meeting will be recorded, your image and voice may be recognised, and other people may be aware that you have attended the meeting, so your continued attendance at the meeting is taken as your consent to your voice being recorded. All persons in attendance at this meeting may be detected by the live stream and the recording equipment, and so should refrain from making any defamatory statements or comments, or from releasing any personal or confidential information about another individual without that individual's consent. The Council isn't responsible for the statements of any individual made during this meeting, and any defamatory statements or any statements which include personal or confidential information are the sole responsibility of the person making them. The Council's Code of Practice sets clear standards of conduct for a Council meeting, and if any person in attendance at this meeting acts in a disorderly manner, or if a person makes defamatory or unacceptable comments, then the meeting may be interrupted by the Mayor or by me, the Chief Executive Officer, and appropriate action taken. This meeting must not be recorded by any party other than the Council. And finally, should the chambers need to be vacated for any reason, I would really appreciate it if you'd follow the directions of our capable staff. So I'd now ask you to all stand for the Mayor.
No need to stand. We don't do that anymore, so thank you. Good evening, councillors, staff and members of the public. The City of Blue Mountains is located within the country of the Darug and the Gundungurra peoples. The Blue Mountain City Council recognises that Darug and Gundungurra traditional owners have a continuous and deep connection to their country, and that this is of great cultural significance to Aboriginal people both locally and in the region. For Darug and Gundungurra people, Nura takes in everything within the physical, cultural and spiritual landscape: landforms, waters, air, trees, rocks, plants, animals, foods, medicines, minerals, stories and special places. It includes cultural practice, kinship, knowledge, songs, stories and art, as well as spiritual beings and people, past, present and future. Blue Mountain City Council pays respect to elders, past and present, while recognising the strength, capacity and resilience of past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Blue Mountains region. Thank you. I have no apologies tonight. I've got a full house of councillors. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held 30 June 2026. It's moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Miles. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried. The true record. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations to be made this evening? There being none, no worries. That brings us to minutes by the Mayor. The first minute by the Mayor is in relation to quarry operations at Singles Ridge Road in the Winmalee and Yellowrock area. It's moved by me, seconded by Councillor Rodrigo. Councillors, issues relating to the operation of the Yellowrock quarry, including the environmental impact of those operations, have come to Council's attention over time, increasingly come to our attention over time. This includes a range of concerns raised by residents in respect of noise and dust from the quarry site and from its activities. The Council in particular notes recent expressions of concern received by us from members of the Winmalee and Yellowrock communities in relation to the operations of the quarry following the recent change in quarry ownership. The Council has received complaints concerning the generation of noise, emissions of dust and sediment discharges that have come from the site, allegedly, all of which are submitted to be adversely impacting residents, adversely affecting adjoining areas, and people adjacent to or in the vicinity of the quarry. Questions have been raised about the lawful operations of the quarry under the EPNA Act 1979, that grand piece of RAND government legislation. The quarry operates on the basis that it holds existing use rights, and no development consent has been granted in relation to the quarry operations. Now, I'm going to express a personal view here, which is not the view of the council, but I have a concern about when you've had an alleged intensification of use, the extent to which prior existing use rights extend to cover that intensification. But there are a range of other legal questions that I and the ward councillors would seek answers to. So what this mayoral minute does is it indicates my intention as mayor to back the organisation in seeking legal advice concerning the quarry operations. That's external and independent legal advice to ensure that we are looking at a business that is conducted within in accordance with the applicable planning and environmental legislation. So, point 4 of our mayoral minute, I guess, is the operational part. That's the part that the words that have work to do. We seek appropriate external independent legal advice in relation to the operation of the quarry. That will then generate privileged advice that will be shared with you, the governing body, so that we can examine it in relation to the quarry operations as they currently are at Yellow Rock. I want to finish by paying a tribute to, in the first instance, our colleagues in Ward 3, who've been responding to residents' concerns in recent times and advocating strongly on their behalf. I want to also acknowledge Mr. Langevad's directorate and their involvement, particularly in recent times, in supporting an analysis of what's going on there. Most importantly, and I've had an opportunity to meet a few of them tonight, I want to acknowledge a very, very well-spoken, sophisticated, carefully read and impressive community out there around the quarry. We meet residents all the time, and often people will bring their passion to a discussion. But tonight in the conversation I've had, and as has been reported to me in relation to other conversations, what this community brings is not just that passion, but a sophisticated understanding of how the planning legislation actually operates in relation to this business, and also a sophisticated understanding of the history of the business, and both, I guess the extent and the limitations that are presented by that. So to the community members, my thanks to you for being an impressive body of people and for engaging with us the way you have. There's a second to wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to speak in favour of the mayoral minute, and I thank the Mayor for bringing this forward. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge in the presence of the Chambers, the Mayor has just mentioned the Wimmera residents, Wimmera and Yellow Rock residents, I should say, of the Wimmera Residents Community Amenity Protection Group, and thank them for the sensible, patient and mature way in which they've undertaken their advocacy on this matter up until this point. While the mayoral minute is comprehensive and well written, I believe it's worth illustrating the extent to which the recent operations at the Wimmera quarry have affected residents' amenity. We do know that the quarry has been in that location for a long time, but since early this year, residents report that there's been a significant increase in activity at the site, the likes of which people who've lived there for 30 years have never seen, or more to the point, heard before. Residents report that the noise from the site commences at approximately 7:45 a.m. and continues till 3 p.m, 5 p.m, or sometimes even into the evening. And that's 6 days a week, 5 days, and then also on Saturdays, 5 weekdays and also on Saturdays. There's many different ranges of noise emanating from what appears to be 3 different large plant vehicles. But the worst offender is a large hydraulic rock hammer, which has been brought onto the site. The residents say, in one example today, the hammer has been recorded producing approximately 33,000 strikes or impacts between 7:45 and 3 p.m. That's 33,000 loud, piercing thuds in just one day. Residents also report that the hydraulic hammer can be heard over a kilometre away from the quarry site, noise travelling as far as Heather Road, Rose Street, Pindari Street. For residents living close to the quarry, the resulting noise and vibration are severe. Mr. Mayor, the residents have reported that the impact on their amenity is increasingly worsening. In correspondence to myself and the Ward 3 councillors, the residents note for 6 days a week, people are being driven out of their homes or forced to seal themselves in quieter rooms to escape the incessant thumping of an enormous hydraulic rock breakers and the endless droning, beeping, crashing and scraping of heavy machinery, all worrying about the health risks of dust when simply venturing out into their backyards. The area around the quarry is home to many elderly and infirm people who have reported that their health has been significantly impacted by the quarry. Many are in a state of distress. Additionally, there are many frontline emergency services personnel living nearby who have reported that the quarry operations are disrupting their daytime sleep between shifts. Mr. Mayor, the impact on residents appears as broad as it is intense. As of this afternoon, 265 residents have signed a petition indicating their amenity has been severely impacted by the quarry, and that's in addition to the large number of representations myself and Ward 3 councillors have received from residents. In closing, I would like to thank your support in this matter, Mr. Mayor. I thank the BMCC staff for their work, and also my Ward 3 councillors for their support, advocacy, energy, and of course the residents for their patience and their advocacy as well, calm-headed, sensible advocacy. I look forward to receiving the legal advice on this matter to better understand how we can best proceed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No, let's see. How do I turn that on? No? Okay. I believe I have allows me to turn councillors off, and Councillor Hall will be unhappy to know I can't work out which one it is. But all right, councillors, there's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Mayoral minute number 2, and I take you to S1, which is on the table in front of you. It's moved by me. It's seconded Councillor Van Opdorp. And councillors, I might ask in moving that for a procedural motion that should I go slightly over time, it's important to get this all out, that there will be no bells. So move Councillor Miles, second Councillor Hollywood. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried. Thank you. Colleagues, Council has confirmed a broad range of planning and merit concerns with the proposal at 142 to 150 Narrow Road. We have confirmed its incompatibility with the planning controls that flow from the 2015 Local Environment Plan in the Blue Mountains, and we've conveyed in the final submission of the Council to the New South Wales Government those concerns that we have. In the submission the Council's made, we identify that the Housing Delivery Authority, the HDA pathway, this new and mysterious pathway that led to the state's significant decision for the site, is, in our opinion, a planning anomaly. It is inexplicable to me, incomprehensible to me, and I'm sure it is to you, and I know to the community, that a proposition that accommodates up to 600 people could be proposed 3 kilometres from the Katoomba town centre, way outside the Sydney metropolitan area. The Department of Planning has this doctrine which says density anywhere, everywhere. And we just say that that doctrine, density anywhere, everywhere, simply doesn't accord with the Blue Mountains land use structure, and in fact the very notion of strategic land use planning, which is a fine-grained notion. It certainly doesn't accord with how to anticipate development to go in a city contained wholly within a World Heritage National Park, the only one in Australia. Despite that, the prevailing concern that the council has, and I think it's fair to say that the community has, is how on earth such a proposal and its evacuation load, 600 people is the evacuation load, could be enabled by the Housing Delivery Authority on bushfire-prone land in such a locality. It's inexplicable to me, and I'm sure it is to you, that it ever got to this point. It shouldn't have. The evacuation load of up to 600 people is an enormous load. To give you a sense, the township of Lapsden is about 700 people, roughly. So you're talking about nearly the township of Lapsden, wholly contained in that one small area. It's quite mind-numbing when you get your head across it like that. Now, as you know, and this needs to be repeated, just some months before the HDA process, Housing Delivery Authority process, the CSIRO identified the Blue Mountains as one of the most bushfire-prone areas in the country, in Australia, with the extent of the bushfire-prone land actually increasing through to 2090. So that prediction is that there'll be more bushfire-prone land due to things like climate change right through to 2090 from where we are now. So you'd think normally it would recede because of development, but it doesn't. It actually increases over that time. So, and to their credit, the department and the minister had excluded the Blue Mountains from an obligation to increase density by the low-rise code. And you would recall that was because of the strategic concern around bushfire. So we had a win with that. But paradoxically, having been given that win, then there's this massive contradiction that comes about in relation to the HDA process as it's exercised at 142 to 150 Narrow Road. For reasons unknown to, I'm sure, anyone in this room, this logic around exempting us from the low-rise code because of bushfire risk somehow doesn't extend to the Narrowneck development. And such a question is posed at a time of planning changes advanced in the name of a housing crisis that does exist, in which the objects of RAND's wonderful EP&A Act of 1979 were amended last December to delete the words, quote, increased opportunities for public involvement from the legislation, and to delete the promotion of the sharing of responsibility for environmental planning between different levels of government in the state. These were foundations of that legislation, that people would be consulted, that the local government and the state government would share responsibility. That's been deleted from the Act. In such a context, the HDA process at Narrowneck is frankly a black box. There's no community knowledge or council involvement in that black box. So no one knew what went in, no one knew what came out. The council wasn't engaged or informed, briefing papers were not published, and the required reasons for decisions were so inadequate as to basically explain nothing but leave the inexplicable obvious. The process may have been compromised, we've said, by the unauthorised use of AI, and I refer you, councillors, to the SMH of 28 November 2025. Blue Mountain City Council's GIPA request into the HDA process provided no insight into the decision-making process. Now, the Minister happily has confirmed, and I'll quote, that no proposal will be approved unless it meets the required planning and safety standards. Now, given that the approach to date has been what I've described to you, and the fact that the Narrowneck HDA state significant development proposal is the first development application for residential accommodation to be assessed by his department in the Blue Mountains since the Act commenced in 1979, such an assurance is welcome. It is, I submit to you respectfully, nonetheless, for us to understand and for us to come to understand how a proposal could be enabled by the HDA on bushfire-prone land. And we would also seek an explanation as to the interplay between the department and the RFS in that process, and why the bushfire-prone land status of the site changed the single day after the decision to declare the project state significant development. The day after. The day after. And we have sought an explanation on that. And in this mayoral minute, we continue to seek a public explanation of that. So given the experience of the Blue Mountains with the HDA process and the implications of public safety of introducing a high-density development into an increasingly bushfire-prone area, remember what CSIRO found and what I just said about 2090, an increasingly bushfire-prone area, thanks to climate change, we request the Minister exempt the Blue Mountains from the HDA process for the same reasons that the low-rise and mid-rise codes do not apply in the mountains, namely the bushfire conditions that prevail here. It is time that we were taken out of the process. I will have something to say publicly about a similar application that hasn't gone forward, but that was able to go in Glenbrook for a 6-storey monstrosity there, but I'll say more on that publicly later, which isn't going ahead. That development and this development prove that the Blue Mountains should be exempt from the HDA process in the same way that we're exempt by the low-rise and medium-rise codes. And that is what this mayoral minute seeks to achieve tonight. I want to thank you, CEO and Director Langavad, for your partnership with me in bringing this forward. Last meeting we called for a public hearing. In previous meetings we've pulled together our submission, we've pulled together the community. This is part of a very strategic campaign on the part of this organisation to safeguard the appropriate fine-grained planning strategies that you need when you're managing a city wholly contained within a World Heritage listed national park. We can start timing now. And would the seconder like to speak? No, don't need to. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Fell.
Thanks very much, and I'll be very...
No, it's a pleasure.
It would be. I speak in response to a point that you made, actually, that we are the only city located within a national park in Australia, in a World Heritage area in Australia. There is another one in the world, which is Banff in Canada, currently experiencing wildfires. And currently, part of the way that they deal with it is with extreme building restrictions that are imposed in Banff. You can't build a house there unless you work in the area or retire to the area or have a business in the area. You just can't do it. There are restrictions on the precise style of buildings. No high-rise in Banff. They're protecting the environment of the World Heritage area because they realise they're one of only 2 cities within a World Heritage area. I just wish that the state government would recognise that we're one as well. Thank you.
Councillor Fell. Of interesting note, you can't have aircraft flight paths over Banff either, but anyway. All right, anyone else wish to speak, or has it been said? On that basis, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. All right, councillors, we have no public speakers, so I'm going to now come to you for matters that you wish to pull out. Labor's Whip, Mr Fell, or Councillor Fell, is there anything you wish to pull out?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 2 and item 15.
Items 2 and 15. Yes, thank you. Anything, I'll go around the table. Councillor Fisher, Councillor Buckham, Councillor Miles, Councillor Rodrigo, Councillor West, Councillor Hollywood. Item 2, Councillor Hollywood. Yep. Councillor Hua. Item 16. Item 16, yep. Councillor Retshaw. Yep. Okay. Councillor Van Opdorp? No. Councillor Jamieson? Right. So in globo are items 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 and 17. It's moved Councillor West, seconded Councillor Fisher. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Which brings me then to item number 2. It's moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hollywood. No.
Doesn't work so well. Anyway, sorry. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am bringing forward a report on the recent my recent attendance on the to the ALGA, so Australian Local Government Association's National General Assembly at the end of June. Now, part of the reason that I am bringing forward this report is I do take it really seriously to have the honour to represent the Mayor and the Council as a whole and the City of the Blue Mountains at this National Assembly, which brings together 538 councils from across Australia. And many of the motions that we move form the policy platform that that ALGA, our national peak body, of which Local Government New South Wales is a member, and we're a member of Local Government in New South Wales. It's the policy platform that they will take forward with the federal government. Now, I'm going to take the report as read because it is the communique. I've included the communique and also a report back on the 5 motions that our council took, all of which were supported. 2 were part of the actual motions that were put forward for debate, and they were all carried without debate, which means that there was support from our fellow councils across Australia. So all of that is set out in the report, so I don't need to run through that. What I do want to draw your attention to, however, is the significant moment at the National Assembly where the all of the peak bodies that make up the members of ALGA signed a joint letter that calling for federal assistance grants to be increased to 1% of the overall Commonwealth taxation revenue. So that was a very exciting moment, and we had a big picture. I know Claire is saying I like a prop, but there is a big picture. I am standing there amongst many people. I'm tiny. But basically this was a really exciting moment for us all to come together to say that we need action on the federal assistance grants, and we need action on from the federal government to support the financial sustainability of local councils across Australia. Now, what has happened since this report was lodged in the business papers is some very exciting news. So I've actually moved, put some words to Jasmine that actually amend the final 2 points of the recommendations. So I'm wondering, they are on the screen there. Thank you. So what I want to draw people's attention to is the fact that at the Australian Labor Party's national conference, there was a debate on the floor of conference. It didn't get a lot of media coverage, but there was a debate. And there was agreement that we would, that the Albanese government would form a compact with local government, and that we will continue to increase federal assistance grants. It's not the 1%, but it is still a huge win. I've got this media release from Local Government New South Wales, which I've referred to in those, in the point. But basically, I'm asking for us to thank councils, local government peak bodies, unions and Labor Party members for their strong advocacy at the ALGA National General Assembly and in the lead up, there is a typo, lead up, and the lead up to the recent ALP National Conference. I know that councillors here made submissions to the National Conference, and I also know that our branches did across Australia. So there'll be more to hear about this, but I think it would be timely to write to our federal member, Susan Templeman, to pass on our thanks, and she can pass that up the line. I'm sure that the Mayor will be happy to write a letter that's appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would like to commend this report and particularly those amendments, bringing them up to date.
Thank you. Excellent
Thank you.
report, excellent report, and thank you for representing me so well. Anyone else wish to speak? Seconder? No? Councillor Hua?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just wish to rise to thank Councillor Hollywood for her report and to, again, put on the record my disappointment that I was unable to attend the ALGA conference this year, as has been my habit in the past, due to the motion. And to point out that the reason I was unable to attend is because we have distinguished ourselves, colleagues, as the only council in the country, to the best of my knowledge, to have passed a motion prohibiting or excluding the participation of observing delegates. And I would like to publicly call on all of you colleagues and you, the Mayor, to consider rescinding that motion in time for the next ALGA conference. I also just wish to put publicly on the record and to express my thanks to the staff for their very warm reception to my letter of the 27th of February, which set out the notices of the motions that our council took to the conference and that were passed. I'm very grateful for the positive response that was received, and I thank Councillor Hollywood for taking those forward to the ALGA conference. It's great to see them, see the work being done, even if I wasn't there to witness it myself. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, to take chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Greenhill, you have the call.
The reason for the resolution that was passed is because this council's been trying to plug a $10 million hole in its budget, Madam Deputy Mayor. As you'll know, one of the reasons that I've refused mayoral pay increases for 7 years is because we all have to make our contribution. Now, an observer doesn't actually do anything at the conference other than go along, hang out, go to a few dinners and socialise. And frankly, ratepayers should not be funding accommodation and travel for people that go to conferences just for their own enjoyment. And that's why the change was made. We all have to recognise the fact that we have significant financial challenges and every small contribution makes. And I stand here speaking as someone who, as you know, Madam Mayor, has foregone $31,000 worth of pay increases as my contribution to this city's needs. So, frankly, it's not about us. It's about the community we serve. It's not about what we can get out of council. It's what we can give to others. And frankly, observers don't play a role. I chose you as a Deputy Mayor to represent me. It was supposed to be me at that conference. I chose you to represent me, and you went down there to work and to exercise a vote, and that is an appropriate saving for the city when our community is making sacrifices all the time because of a paucity of funds and an over-reliance on the ratepayer. Now, I don't apologise for the fact that this council has resolved to not send councillors on junkets. Thank you.
Thank you. Resume the chair.
All right, anything further on the Deputy Mayor's report? There's nothing. Oh, well, Councillor Miles.
Mr Mayor, only to say that I strongly suspect that all those councils out there that are having special rate variations are also going to consider not sending observers to these conferences in future. I think we're ahead of the curve again.
Thank you. One matter before us, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item number 6, I think this is Councillor Redshaw. Do you wish to move something?
Yes, we can move the report.
Yeah, it's moved Councillor Hoare, seconded Councillor Hollywood. Councillor Hoare is the call.
Look, I don't wish to consume a great amount of time on this. I just think that it is important to acknowledge that after some delay, we now have in place an extremely important response from the council to the global climate crisis by specifying in our development control plan that new residential developments should be electric and not gas. So this is showing that our council is listening to the advice of the likes of Dr. Saul Griffiths, the author of Electric Everything, and a great inspiration to campaigners and renewable energy businesses around the country. It's very important to acknowledge we're just one of a growing number of councils that are taking this initiative. There's a limited number of things, to be perfectly frank, that councils can do on the very large issues of climate change. We're seeing the impacts. Every television bulletin, every news report we're hearing, it's extraordinarily distressing to see. My colleague Councillor Fell's already referenced the bushfires, the wildfires in Banff. To see Europe up in flames from Scotland to Portugal and further afield is enormously distressing. As I say, there's very limited numbers of things that here, sitting around this table, we can do. This is one of them, and I thank you very much for your support. And thanks very much indeed to all of the work that I know staff have put in to this. I should also say, I guess, that there's enormous amounts of innovation going on in the appliance space. There are limitations in the extent to which this motion picks up the need to impose development provisions on heat pumps, electric, certainly the refrigerant gases in heat pumps. That is, I'm very excited to be able to inform the council that there's incredible developments unfolding that are allowing us to also deal with those refrigerant gas aspects of the electric everything agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? One matter before us, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Item number 11, was this you, Councillor Redshaw? Yep. Move. Do you wish to move anything? The recommendations as a motion? Yep. Move Councillor Redshaw, second Councillor Van Opdorp. Councillor Redshaw has the call.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'd like to thank the Mayor and the CEO and the staff for making this submission, because again we find ourselves in a position where the government's legislation, the New South Wales state government legislation, proposes a substantial reduction in the ability to apply our own LEP, decreased opportunities for Blue Mountains community to participate in the public planning process as it relates to development assessment, the most pronounced erosion of development assessment considerations since the inception of the LEP, 1979, the delivery of diminished development outcomes and further complication of the New South Wales planning system. And there are a number of key points that are made in this submission, and these include the lack of justification for the proposed reforms that will be allowed through this process,
the lack of upfront strategic planning. So where it hasn't been planned for, there's no opportunity to take into account what's being proposed. The switching off of key considerations that were mentioned previously, and that the Blue Mountains is actually highly constrained and inappropriate for the proposed reforms. There's a lack of response to the local context or understanding of the values of place-based planning. And again, this is an undermining of community participation and expectations, which this government seems to want to standardise so many things and to exclude the community from having a say in, as you said previously, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for this submission.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Retshaw. All right. Anyone else wish to speak? One matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Who pulled out item number 15? Susie. Councillor Van Opdorp, you pulled out item number 15, landslip remediation? Councillor Retshaw. Councillor Retshaw, you want to move something? Okay, moved Councillor Retshaw, seconded Councillor Van Opdorp. Councillor Retshaw has the call.
Again, I'd just like to thank the council for taking action to try and speed up the process of getting the road back in Mount Wilson. I know it's been badly affecting the community and their business operations, particularly because of it's only accessible to residents and with difficulty. So the council has taken any action it can to speed up the process of redeeming the usability of the road. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other Ward 1 councillors wish to speak? No? All right. No, all good. One matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 16, Councillor Hua, seconded Councillor Retshaw. Councillor Hua has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And look, I wish to begin, I guess, by saying what an incredible place we live in, and to the extent to which well, I guess it's very well known that the Wallamai pine is an extraordinarily unique species, an ancient species, a living fossil, but Phosphaera fitzgeraldi, the dwarf mountain pine, is said by the experts who have studied this extraordinarily rare and quite endangered species, say that in many respects this species is even more special and yet nowhere near as well known. And this motion is fundamentally an attempt to try and put a spotlight on this amazing piece of flora and to incorporate this over the course of time into our identity as people living in such a unique environment. There's so much work has been done, and look, I have learnt so much even since putting this proposal up about the tremendous work that Council has been doing over the last 20 years. And for anyone interested, I do encourage you to read the response of the staff to this motion in some detail. The number of programs and plans that have been put in place to conserve this species really is remarkable. And perhaps the intent behind this motion is to, over time, to encourage our communications team, our strategic planning team, to do more to communicate the work that's going on already. And look, I have to confess that in my original framing of this motion, I was perhaps a little over-ambitious and a little bit let's just say not as concerned as I should have been about the implied costs that would be involved in centering this species as part of our corporate identity. But I would hope that over time there is more that we can do to encourage awareness amongst our own residents and amongst the tourists about the existence of this very, very special plant, the very limited areas that it inhabits, and the importance of how we conduct ourselves in our management of water, our management of runoff, our management of weeds, in order to give this species a fighting chance in the increasingly climate changed world that it will need to survive in, and let's hope for another 200 million years. I do also want to, really acknowledge the incredible work of the Blue Mountains Conservation Society. One of their staff has recently, members has recently been very successful in identifying the 14th location of the dwarf mountain pine. It's just amazing the work that these volunteers are doing to help conserve the species, but also the work that's been done by scientists of the Royal Botanic Garden in trying to and learn more about the species, to analyse the genetics. And it was the speech of Dr. Elissa, who were at the Blue Mountains Conservation Society AGM, that was really the genesis of this motion. It's suggesting that perhaps, although there's of course the responsibility for the conservation of the species lies primarily with state and federal governments, that there is perhaps more that the council could do to be able to help build up an identity of our community around this incredibly special plant. I do think it's really important. It's an important way of enlivening and providing hope to younger generations to tell these stories. Goodness knows we need more botanists in our universities, and maybe it's a little bit of a large claim to make, but I would hope that, that by placing a spotlight on the dwarf mountain pine, we might be able to light some fires in young people's hearts and minds to be able to go forth and to devote themselves to the study of the species and the so many other as yet undescribed species that we share this very fragile continent with. So yeah, that's the intent behind it, and I thank you very much for your support, and would hope that in time we can do more to embrace and include as part of our identity the dwarf mountain pine. Thank you.
Councillor Hall, I've got a couple of questions. You can answer them seated. Point 1 of the motion notes some facts about the pine. Point 2 of the motion notes some further facts about the pine. Point 3 notes some legislative facts about the pine. Point 4 notes some facts about the pine. And point 6 notes all the things that the council and other agencies have been doing. What does this motion actually do, apart from note a whole lot of things that are already in existence?
Well, I think it commits us to continuing to deliver on the ongoing initiatives to address the threatening processes and to further our understanding of this unique and critically endangered species. I think it's all in the last sentence in point 6. There's
Councillor Hall, unless you want to leave early, thank you. Point 6 doesn't say that.
I just read it out.
Point 6 says that the council notes it has been actively contributing to the dwarf mountain pine conservation since, well, about 21 years ago, and has continued to deliver ongoing initiatives to address threatening processes. It also furthers our understanding of this unique and critically endangered species. That's something it's already doing. So my question is, what new thing does this motion actually do?
It commits us, I would hope that it puts a spotlight on the fantastic work that we have been doing, and I would hope that it encourages us all to think further about what more we could do in further notices of motion to
Councillor Hall,
embrace and I did put up a lot of ideas, and I had pushback from the staff, and I totally respect.
Unless you want to go home early, don't speak over the top of me. So, Councillor Hall, in practical terms, this motion does nothing other than note what's already in existence. Is that not right?
Mr. Mayor, you'll be extremely pleased, I'm sure, to rest assured that this motion does not commit the council to any further expenditure of funds.
Or anything. All right. Thank you. There's one matter. Hollywood. Does firstly ask the second to wish to speak? No. No response, so Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I will support this motion primarily because a lot of the, as Councillor Hoare has acknowledged, a lot of the rather concerning parts of his proposal have actually been removed. So, yeah, I mean, we can acknowledge, obviously, the work that's been done over the last 21 years. We can note, and I would emphasise that because this is the dwarf mountain pine is a critically endangered species that's also been designated as an asset of intergenerational significance. That because of those things, we're just basically stating a whole lot of facts, so I'm not going to vote against facts. But I would say that aligning it with the Wollemi pine made me think of something, and that is that the protection of the Wollemi pine occurs because its existence is not actually known to the public. And it is actually much more, I believe it is more inaccessible than some of the areas where the dwarf mountain pine exists. Now, one of the things that protects species that are incredibly vulnerable, one of the things that protects our environmental heritage and our cultural heritage, particularly in World Heritage areas and particularly in national parks, is actually not giving away the location. All through the speech, I heard Councillor Hoare saying that he wanted to put a spotlight on this. I am surprised that Councillor Hoare appears to have learnt nothing from what we have experienced at Lincoln's Rock, for example, where people discovered Lincoln's Rock, found out that it was beautiful, and all of a sudden decided to go there, not just in tens and 20s and hundreds, but in their thousands each day. So to me, one of the last things that we want to be doing is actually putting a spotlight on the dwarf mountain pine in the way that he has suggested. And if you read his statement, like the background statement, there are shadows of what he was going to bring forward. You can see it there. Things like increasing tourism. Well, sure, there is already work happening out at the Mount Tomah Gardens. We don't want the spotlight on the areas where the dwarf mountain pine exists. Because you know what? People will try and climb down and grab it or take a photo with it. That is what social media is doing. So I understand that Councillor Hoare is very excited that he has discovered the dwarf mountain pine. I went to the same, he said that he went to the Discovery Forum. I did too, but I didn't feel like bringing a notice of motion forward to actually put a spotlight on this very significant species that people, particularly at national parks level, but also through our new bioconservation, help me out, environmental protection and biodiversity conservation act. Sorry, did I get it eventually? Yep. That these species are being protected. We do not need a spotlight on them. We need to support the work that is ongoing, that's led by the Commonwealth and the state. And I think that the council staff have made it very clear that that is exactly what we are doing. So I'll rest there.
Thanks, Councillor Hollywood. Anything further? Councillor Redshaw?
Thank you, and I know it's fun to try and humiliate a councillor, especially one that's not part of the governing group.
Councillor Redshaw, I'd ask you to withdraw that. You've cast an aspersion on a fellow councillor. I'm going to ask you to
Well,
withdraw
we've just seen aspersions
No,
being cast.
Councillor Redshaw, I've not seen anything in what Councillor Hollywood said that breaches the standing orders. Now,
All right, I'll withdraw
requiring you
it.
to withdraw.
Thank you. I understood, and so did Councillor Hall, that these were in inaccessible areas. And perhaps the idea of promoting tourism is strange to this council, but I thought we were that was our economy, it's a tourist economy, and promoting the idea of the dwarf mountain pine would seem to be quite a reasonable thing to do. And further, the Conservation Society supports the motion and has written to all councillors asking them for their support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? One matter before us. I'll put it all those in favour. Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 18, was this you as well, Councillor Redshaw?
Yes.
Précy of correspondence. Do you wish to move the Précy? Précy moved, Councillor Redshaw. Seconded, Councillor Buckham. Councillor Redshaw.
I'd just like to express my extreme disappointment at the letter in response to our correspondence to the Minister for Climate Change, the Minister for Energy and the Minister for the Environment and Minister for Heritage. The response is from the Director of Blue Mountains, New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service, in favour of, where the government has clearly decided they are putting glamping structures on the pagoda landforms in the Gardens of Stone National Park. And they claim that this will have no impact. How can it have no impact? We're not talking about pitching tents on dirt. They are talking about building significant structures. These structures will be visible, they will change the landscape, and they will have an impact on the environment. Yes, they're not being built on pagodas, but they are being built on the pagoda landform, as Keith Muir has pointed out. And he has further pointed out that while it's claimed that this is a damaged area due to mining, the mining has actually occurred a few kilometres down the road. It has not occurred in the area of these pagoda landforms. So it's very disappointing to see the government supporting, and National Parks itself, supporting such an invasive operation in a delicate area that is very rare and should be protected in every way possible. So the idea of creating these structures so that people can get there and stay there and enjoy the scenery is very much a resort idea. It's not about an environmental, it's not about being part of a delicate environment. So, yeah, I just wanted to express my disappointment at that response. Thank you.
I think we all share that. Councillor Hollywood.
Just, Mr Mayor, can I make a comment from...
You can stand and seek the call in the proper way.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to, I may have misheard what Councillor Redshaw was saying, but I thought she implied that a decision had been made. However, just for the public record, the correspondence actually says a decision, and I'm reading it, a decision has not yet been made on the lease proposal. And that would be the attendant matters relating to the lease proposal as well. So I just wanted to correct that.
Yeah, but our position on the principle remains the same. Yep. Councillor Redshaw, you've only spoken once and no one's spoken against the acceptance of the Précy, so there's no right of reply. Any further? All right, move to accept the Précy. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. I have no urgency motions. I think acting director, executive director, that's the end of transacted business for tonight. Now there are a couple of matters to discuss on adjournment. So I'll now move closure of the meeting, move Councillor West, second Councillor Fisher, that we close the meeting. I'll first come to Councillor Hollywood on closure and then to Councillor Van Opdorp. Councillor Hollywood has the call. Councillor Hoare, please order. The councillors are speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I will keep this as short as possible. I just wanted to acknowledge that this year, libraries, including our libraries, all public libraries, are holding an open day on the 30th of July to celebrate the great work that public libraries do, both here in the Blue Mountains and across the state. The title for the open days is Open Doors, Open Books, Open Minds, and it's to effectively celebrate and promote the great work that libraries do in communities. And many different libraries are running lots of different programs, including sort of behind the scenes tours or readathons or all kinds of things. And I know that for our library, we're not just doing an open day, we don't do things by halves, so we're doing an open 4 days, I believe. And so starting on Thursday and going through to Sunday. So I want to thank the staff for how they've embraced this concept that was brought forward prior to COVID by libraries within the metropolitan area, including the Blue Mountains, Greater Sydney area, including the Blue Mountains. And it's really wonderful to see how it's being taken up. People have put an enormous amount of work in. So if you are a councillor, I think you're really encouraged to drop in to a library over the next 4 days and see the great work and thank everybody for what they do. Libraries are a core service that local government delivers, and we should be very proud of the services we deliver here. Thank you.
To say to the community, if you do see a councillor at your local library, generally approach with caution. All right. Councillor Van Opdorp on closure. Microphone, Councillor Van. Thank you.
I just wanted to speak about Dr. Heather Stewart, who died a couple of weeks ago. Her funeral was last week in Leura. Heather was an extraordinary doctor and an extraordinary human being. She practiced medicine not simply as a profession, but as a lifelong commitment to caring for people. She often spoke of the privilege of caring for people from cradle to the grave, and that's a rarity in this, modern era where doctors have very little time to care for their patients. She believed in walking alongside families through births, illnesses, recoveries, and ultimately that final chapter of their life. That philosophy defined her work as a GP and was reflected in her deep commitment to palliative care, where she helped ensure that people could approach the end of life with dignity, compassion, and respect. As someone who worked in women's health for many years, I especially wanted to acknowledge her contribution to the health and care of people who may not otherwise have had someone so committed to helping them access health resources, open doors for them to get the care they needed. She was a really wonderful human being and a wonderful doctor. Heather also had the courage to be a leader beyond the consulting room. She was a prominent figure in the Australian Lesbian Medical Association, advocating for lesbian doctors and for a more inclusive and equitable health system. Through her leadership, she helped create a profession where others could be themselves without fear and where patients could receive care that recognised and respected their identities. And on the day that I learnt of Heather's death, I was speaking to a young colleague who's only new to the mountains, and she told me that when she got home that night and she talked about this with her partner and her partner's family, that her partner, Rachel, said that Dr. Heather was the person that she came out to when she was 14 or 15, and I think that would not be an uncommon story, and that's truly a gift that she was able to give to her patients. Those of us who knew Heather will remember not only her intellect and clinical excellence, but also her warmth, her gorgeous smile, her wit, her generosity and her unwavering sense of justice. Hundreds of people attended Heather's funeral. Many who gathered commented that Heather had a quiet strength and an extraordinary capacity to make people feel seen, heard and valued. And I think they're qualities that are so important in a time where, often people are rushed. They're often feeling unheard. The Blue Mountains has lost someone who made an immeasurable contribution to the health and well-being of our community. Her legacy lives on in the many patients she cared for, the colleagues she mentored, the causes she championed, and the countless lives she touched. She will be deeply missed by her family and friends, and I wanted to particularly note that in her death, she leaves a huge hole, especially for her son Jack and her partner Elizabeth. It's hard to, find words to express their current despair, but I guess they're fortunate in that they're surrounded by people that love them and will help them get through this period. On behalf of this council, I extend our deepest condolences to Heather's family, friends, colleagues, and all those who are mourning her loss. May we remember her with gratitude, and may her example continue to inspire us.
I might just add a couple of words to that, Councillor Van Opdorp. Heather obviously practiced medicine in Blaxland, in the Lower Blue Mountains, the community that some of us here represent. And I know that she is an enormous figure in Blaxland, and that there are, I reckon, very few families in Blaxland that haven't been in some way touched by Heather's generosity, her skill as a physician, and her depth as a person. Heather was a very skilled doctor, and I know her son Jack well. He's helped me on some of my campaigns, and I extend my love to him and my thoughts to him, which I've done privately as well. Heather was a member of our Blue Mountains Labor family, and I know that many in our group are also hurting at her loss. More importantly, it's a time for us to reflect upon her family, her partner, and their enormous loss. It wasn't that many months ago that I was chatting to Heather on an election eve, the eve of the last federal election, and you wouldn't have known that she was ill. She kept that hidden. What a wonderful human being, what a wonderful member of our community, what a skilled physician, what a great mum, and what a great friend the Blue Mountains has lost. All right, there are no other matters before us, so I'll put the closure of the meeting to a vote. All those in favour? Against, declare the meeting closed. Thank you.